And the news that we're breaking right on the top of 2 p.m. Just under a month ago, there was buzz that India wants to host the 2024 Olympics. But if there was any proof needed on just how incapable the Indian Olympic Association is to handle even small issues, leave far away an Olympic bid, then comes this shocker. In a lapse that will only shock you, the IOA has failed to reserve the quota of Rio Games tickets for sale in India, which means that if anyone from India wants to go watch the event, they won't be able to buy tickets beforehand. All countries ask for a quota for sale in their country, either through the IOC ticketing partner or on their own. But despite repeated deadlines from the international body, India failed to do so. The last chance was in April. This is another reflection of how poorly things are being managed currently, especially with the tussle going on within the body itself. But the biggest loser here is no one else but the athletes who are running from pillar to post to book tickets for their own relatives to come and watch them in action. All right, I'd like to cut across to my colleague Shivani. She's joining us for more details in the newsroom for a larger perspective. We're also going to be joined by Boria Mazumdar, a consulting sports editor. Shivani, will you get us up to speed with this news break? Because this is the sorry state of affairs. Here we dream of hosting Olympics in 2024, and on the other side, we can't even do the very basic of allowing our athletes to be cheered on by their own countrymen and relatives.
You're absolutely right, Preeti. This is a shocking lapse by the Indian Olympic Association. They don't really have much to do. And these are the basic few things that they must take care of. What has happened here is that the Indian Olympic Association, infighting brewing inside it, as we know, has missed several deadlines to secure a quota of tickets that can go on sale for the Rio Olympics in India. They missed a deadline last year, which was September, to reserve a quota. And they've missed even the last deadline in April 2015, whereby they could have at least salvaged the situation by showing some initiative and pressurizing the IOC despite missing the previous deadline, because the allocation had not been done despite several countries asking for tickets in September 2014. And IOA had the last chance in April to secure some quota for India. Now, this hurts fans. Of course, Olympic sports popularity is increasing in India. Rio is a popular tourist destination as well, and several fans would have liked to go visit the Olympics, and it's difficult to do so unless you have tickets beforehand, because you do not get them at the venue so late when the Olympics have started. But more importantly, this hurts the athletes themselves. I know of cases where athletes are trying to buy tickets for their families and friends, but they don't know where to go, and this is a very shocking situation. Let me go across to Viren Raskina, former athlete and also head of the OGQ, which takes care of several athletes. Viren, are you shocked by this bizarre inaction by the IOA, failing to reserve even a quota of tickets to go on sale in India?
Shivani, it's really a sad state of affairs and an extremely unfortunate situation. Not just the athletes, even, for example, myself, just purely as a fan of the Olympics, if I want to go to Rio in 2016, right now we have been researching very intensely to see how can we get tickets. And unfortunately, as an Indian sports fan who wants to go to Rio, there is no way to get tickets because every country has an ATR, which is the authorized ticket reseller. Even countries like Lebanon and Congo and Sri Lanka and Nepal, countries, Cambodia, etc. have ATRs, but India is one of the few National Olympic Associations that has missed this deadline.
And given the number of people in India,
of any other country, because you need to be a citizen of that country to book it. I cannot book it online as well. So the only way we can book it is through the IOA allocation, which they haven't fulfilled. Even the athletes, as you mentioned, the family and friends can't go right now. So it's really a sad state of affairs for all Olympic fans.
Viren, stay with us. I want a few more comments from you. Boria Mazumdar, consulting editor, is also joining us. Boria, what we have learned from the IOC directly is that if the IOA, despite missing previous deadline, had showed some action, then even till the end of April, they could have managed to salvage the situations because allocations had not been made. Only wishes had been submitted of how many tickets a country needs. But it is such a reflection of how poor things are within the IOA right now that even basic steps they are not being able to take.
Shivani, what Viren said, let me echo that. The system is very clear. The system is you have to appoint an ATR. It's not about the IOC and the Indian Olympic Association's wish list to the IOC. India did not appoint an ATR, the chapter got closed. And that is a shocker. Just think about the 5 things that's happening. You broke the story about a no-confidence motion being brought against the president on the day of the IOC president's visit. Now comes the ticket shocker. The athletes are not getting funding. The top scheme was in abeyance for the last 7 months. If you think of the state of Indian sport today, Boxing Association doesn't exist, Archery Association doesn't exist, many associations are mired in infighting. 15 months left to Rio, you tell me where will the athletes derive any little inspiration from to go and participate? And as Viren said, you don't get Olympic tickets online. It is a closed door. For Brazilians, it was extended to 6th of May. But if you're an Indian sports fan, you are done with. This is the state of affairs. When, in the last Olympics, India, along with the United States, had the most increase in media accreditation, telling you that the interest is peaking by the minute.
Right. And that's exactly the point that we must drive to our viewers, that India won a record 6 medals in the London Olympics. Focus has increased on Olympic sports, but from the IOA, from the government and the body itself, there is absolutely no thought for athletes and fans. Reet Abraham, former athlete, is joining me over the phone line. Reet, the story that we're breaking right now, that there will be no tickets for Rio Olympics that will go on sale in India because the IOA has missed several deadlines. And I can say this on record that the IOC has reminded them several times till the end of April, but they failed to reserve tickets for India. Is that shocking for you or not?
It's not shocking because, there has been mismanagement of the IOAs, the federations. They do it over and over again and they're not held responsible. So I don't think, it really bothers them as to how it's affecting the entire country. It really doesn't affect them. And people like us and the TV channels keep talking about it, when such an incident happens. And, they're forgiven, they're forgotten. People like them are, put behind bars for 6 months. And then they come out and they're still holding forth and, calling shots. So what are we doing? I mean, we are not really taking strict action against them. So, they really say, okay, it's one odd thing which happens and then, everybody else will forget about it.
Absolutely. Reet, stay with me. Viren, I want to come back to you. As Boria mentioned very correctly, this is not just an isolated episode of failure from the IOA. We've been reporting very comprehensively how there's a no-confidence motion against the IOA president himself. And we've known even before that for weeks. It's really a dead body. There's no work happening. There's no communication between the president and the general secretary. They're at war. And obviously in such a scenario, the entire machinery has broken down. There's no functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Shivani. I've been associated with Indian sport for many years, first as a player for the Indian hockey team. And actually, I never needed to interact with the IOA during my entire 8-year playing career. Now, in some ways, you can say as an administrator also. So, to be honest, I'm not... I am not exactly sure what exactly is the role of IOA here. National Olympic Associations the world over have a very clear, well-defined role where they raise sponsorship for the athletes preparing for the Olympics. They raise funds. They look after the training and preparations. But the IOA does not do any of that here in India. And, just one small little work in terms of fulfilling deadlines to get an ATR appointed, even that could not be done. So we hear of the IOA only fighting along, but when the actual work comes to be done, this has not been fulfilled. So it's quite a sad state of affairs. And we have to, as I've always said time and again, we have to get much more professionalized in the way we run Indian sport. We need to get much more efficient. Otherwise, the sorry state of affairs will just continue.
Viren, you're in touch with a lot of athletes that are, some of them already qualified, some booking their berths, some trying to qualify for Olympics. Are they worried about the situation? Is this something that can cause them, unnecessary tension?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, many of the top athletes are already inquiring about availability of tickets for Rio. and not just the athletes, a lot of people who are genuine fans of the Olympics, who want to be there to cheer the Indians on at Rio. And for them it's people from the corporate world, people from all walks of life.
Right.
And it's almost embarrassing for me to tell them that there's no way that we can get tickets.
Right.
There's no way they can buy tickets, and they're just shocked to hear that. So it's embarrassing as a sports person to tell people that we can't even get tickets, and that's the state of affairs of sports in the country, from what is supposed to be the premier Olympic association in the country, and the situation has to be remedied.
Right, Borya, it is shocking what is happening within the IOA. As you mentioned, it's really a body that's not really doing even the basic job that it needs to. As Viren was saying, athletes are taking care of themselves. There are private funding or the sports ministry that's helping them prepare for Rio. Forget about training and, giving athletes a comfortable 12-month period before the Rio Olympics. They're failing to do even the basic, managerial, structural jobs of reserving tickets. Do you think that the ministry should look at this very seriously now?
The problem is twofold here, Shivani. I mean, once the ministry starts looking at it, the IOA will start saying in earnest that the government is interfering and will take refuge in that clause of the IOC charter that it has to be autonomous. That has been the pain of Indian sport for far too long, because the IOA will go running to the IOC saying, hey, look, there is government interference and we cannot function. So it's a peculiar catch-22 for Indian sport. As Viren was pointing out, firstly, there will be no ticket. So let me blunt about that. Indian fans cannot make it to Rio anymore. One. Now tell me, as a media person, in every country, and I can say this with certainty, in the Olympic Association, National Olympic Committee of that country sends out a circular for people who want to apply as a media person. Did you ever get a note from the IOA? You did not. Because the deadline for television channels was 6th of February. Did the IOA ever send a reminder to its media? How does it want to popularize Olympic sport? Nothing. Only thing is, does Ramachandran represent IOA in Lausanne? And does Anil Khanna not go and Rajiv Mehta not go? And what happens between them?
Right.
The Secretary General, Treasurer and President are at loggerheads. That is the reality of Indian sport at this point in time. If this IOA could be disbanded once and for all, and there could be some body, maybe Viren's body or any other corporate body that took over Indian sport, it would be for the better.
Absolutely. Viren, not to mention all of this is happening in the background, where just under a month ago, there was huge buzz created by people within the IOA themselves, especially Ramachandran, who were trying to pitch for the 2024 Olympics as a host for India. I mean, this just shows how far behind we are.
Absolutely, Shivani. I couldn't agree more with you. I think we are living in cuckoo land if we believe that we can host the Olympics anytime in the next 10 years. We got to get our own house in order first before we can even dream of doing that. And it starts with having a good, very strong, basic professional structure in place to run Olympic sport in the country. Olympic gold medals don't grow on trees. We need to work for years and years in advance with the most talented athletes before we can get there. And part of it is having a good, strong administrative structure in place, which unfortunately just does not exist at the moment.
Absolutely. Viren Raskina, Borya Majumdar and Reet Ibrahim, thanks a lot for joining us. This is, of course, happening on the back of the no-confidence motion that has been moved against N. Ramachandran, the president of the IOA. And it's no secret anymore that it's a body that is not functioning at all. Internal wars going on. And now they have failed the Indian fans and athletes as well by missing even the very last of the deadline in April 2015 to be able to secure some tickets for fans and athletes in India. It's indeed a very sorry situation.